Some crazy weather changes are on the way to the pattern across the United States in the next few days, with cooler than average air entering the east, warmer than average temperatures making their way into the central and western U.S. This video has a detail on both of these temperature trends with a look at some of those anomalies and exact numbers, plus I've got a look at the precipitation you can expect.
One Nation Weather.
Thanks so much for taking time out of your day to watch my video. I'm going to be discussing temperatures and so much more, and I wouldn't even be doing that if it weren't for the great weather model maps that I get from WeatherBell. I have a free trial link to their company right down there below in the description. Feel free to check that out, but also check out the rest of this video, of course, as I'm going to be first breaking down the mid-level pattern. That is a look at the pressure into the atmosphere. What goes on in the atmosphere often dictates what happens at the surface. Let's go ahead and go into the week ahead to give you a look at what our colors are going to be on the map and what they mean. These blues that we're going to have in the east as we go through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, even towards Thursday indicate lower pressure and cooler than average temps in most cases, and they will this week for sure. Out here into the plains, these yellows and oranges indicate some high pressure ridging and the warmer than average conditions that are going to come along with that. Here we go, taking a look at what this means in terms of our exact temperature departures or anomalies from average for this time of the year. Going through Sunday into our Monday, look at these blues infiltrating into the eastern United States. By the time we go to the midweek time frame, these blues and greens are just covering states anywhere from Illinois down to the Carolinas, back up to Maine, 10 to 20 degrees below average. Meanwhile, back out here, if we shift gears into the central plains, we're going to be seeing temperatures going anywhere from around 15 to 20 degrees above average at the high end. Of course, there's going to be quite the temperature difference there from the plains to the east coast, and I'll be breaking down the rest of the details on that and so much more in the rest of this video. I just wanted to give you that quick reminder now that we're a minute and a half in to hit that subscribe button if you're new to this channel and want more consistent, accurate, and educational forecasts in the future. All right, let's jump right back into it. Looking at the future radar that's going to come with this pattern change, you can see the culprit low pressure system and where the cooler air is going to come in behind it. There's that low pressure system, the L, right over parts of New York State. You can see it there in the western part of the state as I zoom in. We're going to have all the shower and thunderstorm activity on our Sunday associated with the moisture and the heat that's out ahead of it. Indiana, parts of Ohio and Kentucky, all the way over to the mid-Atlantic and southeast states. We're going to be watching the shower and thunderstorm threat into our Sunday afternoon. Some of these storms will even start earlier in the day, but overall the best chance for some isolated severe weather will come out of them towards those coastlines in the afternoon and evening hours. Also did want to point out that we're going to have at least some scattered showers and storms through some parts of the Mountain West, anywhere from the Four Corners region up to Montana and the Dakotas Sunday afternoon and evening too. Other areas of the country remaining mainly on the drier side. That includes places like Minnesota as well as Texas. Here we go into our Monday. Do want to point out that we're going to have more of that shower and thunderstorm activity associated with our cold front in the east. It's not going to be quite as extensive as we see on Sunday, but nonetheless, from North Carolina up to Maine, some more showers and thunderstorms to watch, particularly in those afternoon hours, a few going on the stronger to severe side for sure. By the time we go towards Tuesday, look at how immense the difference is. We're going to have cooler than average air moving in. You can tell that because of those red lines dipping from the northwest to the southeast through this region. The Midwest, the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, down to the southeast, just seeing a dry conditions Tuesday into Wednesday. It might last all the way to the end of the week in many of these areas, in fact. Most of the country is staying very dry, even as we go towards our Wednesday, where we're going to continue to watch this overall warm, ridging flow from the south to the north make its way out of Arizona and New Mexico, all the way on up there towards places like Montana and the Dakotas. We could see some spotty showers and storms coming out of the front range of the Rockies, as well as on up there into the north central plains, but most areas are going to remain dry across the country as we go beyond around Monday into Tuesday. That's really the full breakdown of what we're going to be seeing in terms of the precipitation side of this pattern change. I will give you a look at some of the rain totals in just a moment, but first looking at that mid-level jet stream as we go into the end of this weekend and the start of the upcoming week. There's that magnifying glass giving you a great look at where we're going to have some of that higher jet stream energy moving through. That's going to help to actually support some brief severe weather as we kickstart the week, as our low pressure system that's going to be in the northeast U.S. and the mid to upper levels continues spinning around even beyond the time frame when severe weather will be on the likelier side. Here's when severe weather is likely. It's as we close out this weekend, going into our Sunday, August 18th. I'm using my ONW severe scale, a 1 to 7 severe weather scale to pinpoint it. We're up to a level 3 of 7 in some parts of particularly Mississippi, southern Alabama, southern Georgia, parts of the Carolinas, and then all the way on up there along that mid-Atlantic coast. Damaging winds will be the main threat out of any storms that go severe there late on our Sunday into our Sunday evening. Isolated severe weather will also be possible in some parts of the areas back there into the Mountain West. Overall, though, once we get beyond Sunday and especially Monday, then we're going to see severe weather threats go down in towards Tuesday and Wednesday. Here we go, taking a look at what the precipitation is going to look like just through the first few days of this week, through Sunday, Monday, and into our Tuesday here. Look at how heavy the rainfall is going to be, or is at least expected to be, from this Weather Prediction Center graphic over some parts of Maryland, Delaware, through Pennsylvania, New Jersey, up into New York State, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island. These are the states where the best chance for some flooding will come out of these 2 to 4 inch rainfall totals that could at least be on the isolated side. This will be mainly from our storms that we get Sunday going into our Monday. We could even see some locally higher amounts. I wouldn't be surprised if a few spots get close to that 6-inch mark out of the heaviest downpours. Down here, we're not going to get that high, but we could get around 3 inches in some of the heaviest thunderstorms in sporadic fashion from Louisiana to the Carolinas. The flood threat a little bit more isolated there. As we head back on out here towards the Mountain West region, as well as the Front Range and High Plains, we will be watching a little bit of that precipitation that could come out to some flooding as well, heading into the early part of this week. Dew point temperatures show moisture levels at the surface, and in fact, I'm going to look at those dew point temperatures to show you where we're going to notice the humidity really dropping as we go into the week ahead. Sunday, notice all those yellows and oranges across the country, really indicating that we have very moist air in place. That's ahead of that cold front in the east, but look at how we start to see that cold front do its work. Monday night going into our Tuesday. Once we lose the rainfall, we lose that humidity as well. The magnifying glass shows some of those areas where the dew points could go from around 60 to 70 at this very start of the week to around 30 to 40 by the time we go towards Wednesday into our Thursday. The lower humidity values and the overall lower dew points are going to continue at least through Thursday into our Friday. In fact, let's track that cool down with our actual temperature anomalies. Here are my ONW temp anomaly graphics. Let's start with our end of our weekend here on our Sunday, August 18th of 2024. Temperatures a little bit below average in some parts of the east and the west. Overall, the most prominent anomaly, though, down there in the south central plains, where New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, parts of Arkansas and Louisiana could be around 10 to 15 degrees above normal for this time of the year. By Tuesday, though, the biggest anomaly is going to be ding, ding, ding right over there towards Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York. It is going to be about 15 degrees below seasonable averages for this time of the year as we go towards our Tuesday and even into our Wednesday over this region. A lot of the east, even places like Illinois, down to Tennessee, North Carolina, back up to Maine, about 10 degrees below normal. Then as we go towards Thursday, we continue to see that cooler than average air sit around in those areas. But also what I want to point out is that all week long, we've seen this warm bubble sitting around Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma. It has been dry. It has been hot in these areas for weeks now. That is not going to let up. It is going to continue to be very hot there, while the far east coast and far west coast areas remain on that cooler side, even towards next weekend. Let's go ahead and play things out again with that mid-level pattern so you can visualize, now that you've seen everything, how this week's going to turn out. There's that cooler than average air in the east, warmer than average air into the central and western United States. Let's look at what this means for our exact high and low temperatures day by day into the week ahead. Let's start with our Sunday morning lows, our August 18th, looking at these numbers from Arizona and New Mexico over to Texas, Oklahoma, some parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. You see those circles? Those are record maximum lows, as in the temperature has never been this warm before to start the day or at the low point in the day since records have been kept. So 70s and 80s are very uncommon for this time of the year in this region, and the high in the afternoon is going to be uncommon in a place like Abilene, Texas, up to Oklahoma City, back on over there towards even Jackson, Mississippi, and New Orleans, Louisiana as well, the same day. So Sunday afternoon, these numbers going from the 70s and 80s in the morning to the triple digits in the afternoon in any of those spots you see the 100 plus. It is at least going to be 95 in any of these areas I have circled, though, for sure on our Sunday afternoon, unless some sort of rogue storm pops up to keep it cooler. By Monday, August 19th, 2024, we notice the same thing, a lot more warm air over the south. We start to see some cooler air creeping into the Great Lakes, and that's really going to become noticeable in the afternoon highs Monday around Wisconsin, over into some parts of Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, and even into parts of Kentucky, West Virginia, Pennsylvania. Look at these numbers. We're going to see some 70s. If you see a circle for an afternoon high, that's a record minimum high, so it's never been that cool before for an afternoon high temperature. There's another one of those kind of weird things to say. By Tuesday morning, temperatures really cooling down even more across this region. We're going to see some 40s slipping into the mix there in upstate New York. Plenty of 50s to go around, though. That's going to be the most common theme through a lot of Indiana, a lot of Ohio, a lot of these states up here that I have circled. Back into the plains, back to the south central U.S., more 60s and 70s to go around. But even there in the Carolinas and Mid-Atlantic, it's going to start to feel better by Tuesday. Tuesday afternoon, we've still got some 80s and 90s in some of those far southeastern locations, but most of the East U.S., that's northeast of this line, but down into those 70s for highs, even some 60s up there in Pennsylvania, New York, a lot of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. 90s to 100s there in parts of Oklahoma and Texas still, even on our Tuesday afternoon. By Wednesday morning, this is when the cool down really tries to make its run further south. You see parts of Tennessee, Kentucky, over into Virginia, and North Carolina as well. Many spots getting down there into the 50s across this region. It'll be even cooler if you go up above 5,000 feet there in the mountains. Really interesting to see there. Whereas back out here into the Central Plains, you guessed it, we're going to continue to see 60s and 70s persisting down there towards places like Texas, Louisiana. It is just going to be so hot this week. Wednesday afternoon breaking more record warm highs in those locations with triple-digit heat. Thursday morning breaking more record warm lows with 70s and 80s down there in Texas. Look at that. Thursday afternoon still breaking the records there while it's a little bit cooler, but starting to warm back up in some areas like Minnesota, Wisconsin, into the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley. No more 70s, but it's still going to be in the upper 70s and low 80s as opposed to the low to mid 70s. So it's not terrible. It's definitely going to be still nice at that point in the week, but it is going to start to warm up from west to east later on. And in fact, let me show you what I mean here using the temperature anomalies from our European ensemble members. This is an average of some different models, and look at what they're showing. Warmer than average here, not only moving out of the central U.S., but also moving back towards the east, heading out of the end of next weekend and towards the start of next week. So around August 24th through the 27th, we'll see a lot of places that have been in the 70s probably going back on up towards the 80s and maybe even the 90s, unfortunately. Or at least, unfortunately, for those of you, if you do not like heat. In terms of our precipitation, it is going to be drier than normal for this time of the year. Look at all these white areas. This is where no ensemble member basically even shows any sort of precipitation. Texas, you're also in that mix where we're not going to be looking at much rain, if at all, into the next week or so. Eventually, we see the confidence go down, and that's why you see all those grays filling up on the screen. And speaking of confidence, of course, that decreases longer range, but what I want to forecast for you in my next project is your fall forecast of 2024. This is going to be a quiet week. I don't think there's going to be too much to discuss in terms of the weather pattern. The Climate Prediction Center has updated their fall forecast data. That gives me a good kind of basis to start my video on. So what I'm trying to say is that this week I might not have many regular videos, if at all, but at some point later this week I might upload a fall forecast for 2024, so I hope everybody gets excited for that, and the winter forecast will hopefully be not too far behind that either. That is it for this video. If you, again, like consistent, accurate, and educational forecasts and you're not already subscribed to my channel, consider doing that below. That is it for this one. I will see you likely in my next video, which will be that fall forecast, hopefully.